Today's show is one of those jam-packed updates where the Dallas Cowboys news cycle is moving at lightning speed, and we've got to break it all down in one big sweeping conversation. From the fresh signing of Jadeveon Clowney and what that really means for this defense, to the injuries affecting key pieces like Cavante Turpin and Cooper Beebe, to the wider implications of how this roster is being shaped in September for a marathon season that's already proving how thin the margins are in the NFL. And trust me, we are going to unpack it all, give you perspective you won't hear anywhere else. And of course, I want to hear from you in the comments. Because this show isn't just me talking at you. It's a dialogue with the most passionate ride-or-die fan base in the league. And I'll start with the obvious. Jadeveon Clowney. Yes, that Clowney. The former #1 overall pick, freak athlete, disruptive force off the edge, a guy whose career has been equal parts highlight real dominance and frustrating stretches of inconsistency, is now officially a Dallas Cowboy. And it's a move that says more than just, we added another pass rusher. Because this front office, for all its history of being conservative and sometimes frustratingly hesitant to push all the chips in, just looked at the current state of this defense. Micah Parsons carrying too much of the load, DeMarcus Lawrence not getting younger, role players like Sam Williams, Dante Fowler, and others struggling to consistently impact games, and said, we need another dude who can change the math for offensive coordinators. And Clowney, at 32 years old, may not be the same player who came into the league with once-in-a-generation athletic testing numbers, but he's still more than capable of creating havoc, whether that's collapsing the edge, setting a strong wall in the run game, or simply being the kind of veteran presence who forces opposing quarterbacks to hesitate that extra half second. And you guys know in today's NFL, half a second is the difference between a third down stop and a 25-yard completion. So the question is not, can Clowney still play? We know he can. 9.5 sacks just last year with Baltimore. That's not nothing. That's production. The question is how fast he can be integrated into this Cowboys system, given that he's been sitting out there as a free agent all summer, working out on his own, keeping in shape, but not in the rhythm of training camp, not in the cadence of live reps. And if you've watched this game long enough, you know there's no substitute for actual football conditioning. The hits, the leverage battles, the strain on those tendons and muscles that too often betray older players when they rush back too quickly. Which is why the staff has been cautious about managing his workload, talking about 15 to 25 snaps as a possible ramp-up range. And let's be honest, that's smart. Because the absolute last thing you want is to sign Clowney on a Tuesday and have him pull a hamstring by Sunday. Because his body wasn't truly game-ready. So yes, patience will be required, but it's patience with purpose. Because if Clowney stays healthy and finds his rhythm, this move has the potential to tilt the balance of power on the defensive line rotation, not just by adding depth, but by elevating everybody else. Micah can be unleashed in more creative alignments. Sam Williams won't be overexposed, and suddenly opposing offensive lines can't just slide protection in one direction every play. They've got to account for a new weapon, and that has ripple effects across the entire defense. Now, beyond Clowney, roster moves continued with the unfortunate but expected news that rookie guard Cooper Beebe is headed to injured reserve, with what we now know, thanks to Todd Archer, is a lateral ankle sprain plus a small fracture in the foot, not the high ankle sprain that Ian Rappaport initially reported. So yes, tomato tomato in terms of semantics. But either way, the timetable is 6 to 8 weeks, minimum 4 games on IR, and it's a big loss for a Cowboys offensive line that has quietly been under the microscope because, as always, this team's ceiling is tied to how well Dak Prescott is protected and how effectively the run game establishes balance, and losing a young, talented piece like Beebe isn't catastrophic, but it chips away at the margin of error, it forces shuffling, it tests depth, and in this league, depth is always exposed sooner or later. Meanwhile, Cavante Turpin, the electric return man and gadget receiver who gives this team its spark in the open field, is also on the injury list. But thankfully his issue is a trap strain rather than a true neck injury. And that distinction matters a lot, because a neck problem could have sidelined him for weeks or worse, whereas this is more manageable. Something the staff believes can allow him to be limited in practice, but still play Sunday against the Bears. And I can't emphasize enough how big that would be, because Turpin isn't just your WR4, he's your return ace in a year where the NFL's new kickoff rules are already producing more live returns. He's averaging over 22 yards per return with the kind of burst that can flip field position instantly. And losing that element would not only take away a scoring threat, but also hand more responsibility to guys like Jalen Tolbert or Ryan Flournoy, who, let's be blunt, don't inspire the same confidence in this fan base right now. And speaking of fan base, here's where I want you all to chime in, because these questions matter. How many sacks do you realistically see Clowney racking up this season in Dallas? Do you believe Turpin suits up this week? And if not, who should step into that WR4 role, Tolbert or Flournoy? This is where the pulse of Cowboys Nation gives life to the conversation, because your expectations, your optimism or skepticism, they all feed into the larger story of what this season could be. And let's not lose sight of that bigger picture. This is a Dallas Cowboys team with a championship-caliber defense if everything clicks, but windows in the NFL don't stay open forever. Injuries pile up, contracts squeeze rosters, opportunities vanish quickly, and moves like signing Clowney are exactly the kind of swing you make when you're serious about capitalizing on the now, about not wasting Micah Parsons' prime, or letting another year slip away with a "we almost had it" narrative. So yeah, it's a gamble, but it's a calculated one, and it signals intent, which is something fans have been begging for from this front office for years. And as we monitor Clowney's snap count, BB's rehab, Turpin's availability, and all the chess pieces moving in real time, let's remember this. The Cowboys are 2-0, they've weathered adversity before, and they're positioning themselves for a critical stretch of games where depth, adaptability, and star power all collide. And with the Bears on deck, a primetime spotlight looming, and questions swirling about whether this team is merely good or genuinely great. Every move, every injury update, every signing carries weight far beyond a single Sunday. And that's why we're here. I'm breaking it all down because Cowboys Nation deserves the full picture, the real context, and the chance to voice your passion in the comments below. So hit that subscribe button, drop your predictions, and let's keep riding together as this season unfolds. Because in Dallas, the story is never small, the stakes are never low, and every week is another chapter in the most scrutinized, most celebrated, and most polarizing franchise in football.